Hi, this is Cindy, the Crazy Old Sock Lady, back for part 2 of tips and tricks. And it should be a fun installment for today. If you find that is anything that is useful or helpful, please comment below. And don't forget, you can like us and subscribe, but you certainly don't have to. There's no pressure. There's no pressure. Do it now. Do it now. No pressure. Do it now. Okay. So now we're going to do the sock part. Like I said, this is for toe-ups. And ta-da. So I'm going to give this a little tug up. And I'm going to just knit all the way across. But the first thing I do is I want to, and I call this anchoring. Other people, I don't know what they call it, but I wrap it around the tail, around the first needle in the back, on the back of the half mark. And I do it also on this side. Okay, so what we've done here is we've actually knit the very first row at the base of the toe on the top of the sock, even though this is the back of the sock. I engage the heel spring. Now, I leave my heel spring engaged for the entire sock. And the reason that I do that is I find I get really nice stitch consistency that way, and I don't have really tight stitches in my heels and in my toes. And it's nice. So then we do on the toe just a standard one up, and then on the decrease, and then coming back on the decrease we do one up, two down. And when we come back, that's what you're going to see. And I'll show you how to hang the toe. You also, on the when you're coming back and you're doing the toe, your last one is you'll also wrap this again. By then this stitch will have already been knitted on both of them, and so yeah, it'll look a little funny on the machine, but you don't end up with a bunch of weirdo stuff. So when you come back, you'll see that we have the toe done, and we'll be getting ready to hang it. Okay, so one of the things that I do, I break all the rules. Everybody says, oh no, when you put your heel forks in, you put the weights in, you go down 5 or 6 rows, it doesn't work right, blah, blah, blah. But I find that if I wait till the last couple of stitches on the decrease, I can put my heel forks in, and I never have to move them again. And they're in a bag, just like the soft weight, with the V-hooks. You can see them right here. Ta-da! And I just go down, I count down 2, and it goes right behind the 2. And I drop it in there, and I crank away, and I don't have any troubles with it at all. Got the toe kind of done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lower all the needles, and I actually lower them all the way down for this part. Okay, make sure everything's open. I take out my heel weight first. When I do that, I just kind of push down on the heel, lift my weight up and out, and there it is. Ta-da-da-da! I'll need this later. And I'm going to reach in here, and when you do this, when you do a toe-up sock, this is where, if you're not careful, that you can lose stitches, because if I just pull up, watch what happens to my stitches. See how they're wiggling? I'm not holding that sock down, the cast-on bonnet, so I pull on that cast-on bonnet really hard. So it actually makes that hard to get the weight out, but you notice nothing moved. I didn't lose any stitches. So we end up with an extra stitch when we do this because we've anchored behind the half mark here. So what I want to make sure that I do is that I incorporate that on both sides, because this little first stitch on both sides can hide on you, especially on this side. You'll notice the reason why I picked all my fun contrasting colors. Can you tell which is my sock yarn? Well, there's my ravel cord, there's my sock yarn, there's my waist yarn. So I know that everything that's between this purple and this pink is my sock yarn. I want it highly contrasting so that no matter what had popped up here, whether it had been the blue or the white or the gray, I could see it with relative ease. So the very first stitch I pick up is this one right here. And I'll pick up a couple on each side. I'm going to try not to be in my glorious cameraman's way. And so I pick this first stitch up. And I actually want to just give it a twist. The first stitch is always awkward, especially when I'm trying to stay out of her view. And I put it on there. Now, the second stitch is here. Notice I'm pulling on this fabric. So now what I want to do is I want to get that stitch as close to that needle as I can get it. I don't want to pick up my waste yarn, because if you do that, well, that's kind of a pain later. But the ravel cord helps with that. Now, remember I said, oh, you have a thing with this mock rib? Well, because it's a mock rib, I've got an empty needle here. So where would I put the stitch? Well, common sense says, I want to put it over here. If you do that, you end up with lots of drop stitches. And if you look over here, I do have a lot of picks. And you're wondering, why do I need 6 or 7 picks at every machine? Well, if you drop 5 or 6 stitches, like you're going to see in this picture to follow, that is why you need 5 or 6 picks, because you want to hold your stitches so you don't lose them and the toe doesn't come undone. So, which is horrible. So we're going to put this 3rd stitch back here on needle number 2. But I'm always going to pull this as close to the needle as I can get it. I'm going to lift the fabric, fight the needle a little bit, but I try not to pull on the needle, on the stitch. I try to just get it where I'm pulling that fabric as close to, and it's a little tricky. See, even when I know what to do, I still have a tendency to mess it up a little bit. But as long as I'm not pulling too much, same thing, you always go backwards in the direction that you're lifting needles. That you're lifting stitches onto needles. So we've got 5 or 6 stitches, 7 stitches on this side. We're going to do this side now. When I do this one likes to be a little bit more persnickety to find, because the first thing I have to do is find my loose little ravel cord down here. And I have to pull that sucker tight so I can see my stitches. So I'm going to pull that tight so I can see all my stitches. This one doesn't, it's harder to see on this side for everybody. And so, get my last piece out of the way here. So, here is, dun 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 dun. Is this you? I think this is you. So this is the one that goes here. And just like the other side, I pick up the 2nd stitch and I do this. And I put another one on that one. So some of these are going to have 2 or 3 all the way around. So now I got to stretch this fabric to catch this next needle. And I just keep going. And the closer I get the fabric to the needle, the less I have to lift. And the easier it is to find. But it doesn't always like to go that way. And get down there, you turkey. Okay, so we've got the toe hung, and it's tight. One of the first things I always do is because I'm doing a mock rib, the 2 needles in the back, and the first 3 needles back here. Just raise them up nice and high. This is where I have the most stitches, so I want to make sure that everything can, stays on there. But because I've got so much tension on these needles here in the back, I want to make sure, if you stop and listen really carefully when I raise this one up, you can kind of hear, I think, if we're lucky. If you can't, you'll see where it automatically kind of stops when I lift, because it hits a pause. I don't know that you can actually hear it, but here, we'll try again. There's a mini pause where it wants to stop, where it's just at the base of the latch. So I don't raise them up all the way, I just give it that first little kick, and it gets everybody down. So, hate weaving in tails. When you're done with this sock and you put it on, it'll be done. So I take it and I E-wrap clockwise around these first several needles. Of course, now that I've just pushed that one down, to raise it back up. Okay, but I do this around the first several needles, and if you wrap around one needle to the back of the other, you do that. And one of the things that I find is I wrap as many needles as I can without losing any stitches. I might be able to get 1 or 2 more. Why do I do so many? Because the more I stitch in backwards, the more locked that is, because these stitches are in backwards, so it locks it. So if you have to frog this sock for some reason, then what happens is when you get to this point you've frogged all the stuff, you actually have to stop and then pull this stitch this way and then finish frogging, so it locks it. So I take my soft weight after I'm done, and the first 5 rows after I hang the toe, I go really slow and I hold my weight as much as I can and make sure that I want to push it down so it's down as close to the base of those needles as I can get it. I got a lot going on right through here, but so we'll crank slowly. The first row is especially tough, especially since I've changed my setting. One of the things that you're watching for is what knits, is not what's right here at the yarn carrier. What you're watching what knits is, let's get here. See where this right here, this is where you're watching. You're watching this, making sure this yarn back here is getting under that hook of that needle right there before the latch comes up, because if it doesn't, you're going to drop a stitch. So I watch very carefully. And no, I'm not as fast as other people getting socks done. But what I can tell you that I do is that I don't drop a lot of stitches, and I don't have to frog a lot of stuff, and I don't have to repeat. Now anytime I get to the miters, especially the first round, I'm real careful and I watch those and make sure that the miter is the seam where the toe is. That's called a miter. So that's, you watch there real carefully, because that's a place that they like to go. So if you notice, it's already cranking much better. I don't use this row counter. I'm hoping to have that remedied soon. So we just did row 1. So here's 2. And I'm finding that everything seems to be sitting nicely. 3. And I always start my count here. So if I do something silly, I got the whole roll to figure it out before I go, oh no. 4 and 5. So this is a toe up sock. Right now technically we're at the heel, so you'd wrap this needle and you'd wrap this needle just like we did on the toe, on the increase and the decrease. The last little thing I'd like to say about a toe up sock, when I hang the hem, I don't change my mock rib to a 1 by 1 anymore. I actually leave the 4 by 1, and then I just pick up every 4th bar for whatever, however down I want it, whether it be 14 or 20 or whatever I'm doing, and I hang it, and then I can watch how the yarn acts next to each needle to hang the hem. So I'm hanging the right row all the way around, and then after I take it off the machine, I always leave a nice long tail, and then I just take my handy dandy long latch tool that I got from Dave Chambord, which, by the way, I adore these. And I just crochet the tail as long as I can, and I weave it into the cuff, the hung hem. I don't even cut it, because if something ever happens, I know I can reach in there, fish around, pull it out. I can untie that, and I can have a little bit for darning later. So it's auto darning sock. It's a great hiding place for it. And so literally when it comes off the machine, you crochet 6, 8, 10, 20 stitches, whatever you want. Tuck it in the hem and the hung hem, and your sock is wear ready. Thank you for stopping by today to see the crazy old sock lady. It's been a pleasure to hang out with you guys again. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. You don't know, I don't think there's a giveaway this week with this one, but I might change my mind in the middle of the week. So if you like and subscribe and comment below, you're entered. If you have any suggestions about what you'd like to see for future content, please comment below. Would love to hear it. I will do my best to answer everybody's questions or whatever. Have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye.